Wrestling Chat with Friends, the Tuesday show, the WWE talk show. I am your host, EJ the Collector. Again, Happy New Year. Happy 2023. Another year down, another year upcoming. We'll call this the debut episode of season 2 of Wrestling Chat with Friends, the Tuesday show. I am joined, as I am most weeks, by Santa Carbs, our friend TG. Tom, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. My body is slowly turning into goo, thanks to a large quantity of cookies that I've consumed over the last week and a half or so. But we got 362 more days to bounce back, so I'm feeling good.
You look good too. And as always, our producer, the man who is usually behind the camera on Tuesdays, but is here to talk with us a little bit tonight for a while. We got Cheats. Cheats 2 belts. How's it going, Cheats?
I'm good, man. I'm excited about what's happening. Excited for the new year. And excited for all of our new listeners and followers. So
we do have lots of new listeners and followers, and we appreciate that. You can follow us live right now on our Facebook page, our Facebook group page, Wrestling Chat with Friends. Go there, like it, join the community, become a friend who comes on the show, tell friends about it. We're also on Twitter at WCWF Pod. You can also find us on Apple and Spotify. But we are also bringing on today a new friend, first-time guest on the show, David. Is it Pijor?
Pijor, my
Pijor. David, good to have you on. You're rocking a red NWO T-shirt.
Thank you.
Does that mean?
Shout out to my friend Dakota for gifting this to me recently. It was I've worn it every day.
Does that mean you're more Wolfpack than you are the black and white, or was that just the kind of shirt that?
I really loved the Wolfpack whenever it happened because like the black and white was just it was refreshing when Sting turned up. You know, I was like, how could he? But yeah, I love the Wolfpack. Mostly, I was a Scott Hall fan, such a huge Scott Hall.
My debut episode as a co-host on Wrestling Chat with Friends was the Scott Hall tribute show we did last year. Yeah, he was one of the best. I think in the Rate the Wrestler Cheese, did we end up giving him like a 4.5 or something incredibly high?
It was a little bit of bias. It was a little bit of recency bias in regards to the timing of our Rate the Wrestler and the passing of Scott Hall. I think we actually rated him on the Scott Hall tribute show. So I'm gonna honestly say we should throw all of those scores out.
Yeah.
He did rate higher than any human being ever possible in wrestling.
I mean, he was maybe a top 10 talker at one time overall. So before we get into sort of like the current WWE product, David, because you're a new friend to the show, tell us a little bit about your wrestling journey. Like, what's your sweet spot? Was it the Monday Night Wars? You sort of look about the same age as all of us. So just give us a little bit of your wrestling biography.
Say your age. 1, 2, 3.
48.
22.
All right, so we all got some ears on you a little bit, some years on you, but you're a fan of the product, so you've gone back way in the day. Give us a little about your wrestling history.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being super young, watching it just in the kind of in the background, watching like Bushwhackers, just early like 90s I had some action figures, some like I remember Ultimate Warrior, I think I had Hogan, Jake the Snake, but I like didn't watch it really regularly. I had a lot of toys as a kid, but like it was always there. And then my cousin in New Jersey was a big fan of Raw. I wasn't really watching it, so I would pop in, I'd watch, and that was like right when Kane Undertaker was really coming about. And I actually got into WCW when I got an N64 and I got World Tour.
Oh yeah.
And like I didn't know who any of the characters were. So I'm like, well, I gotta watch the TV show. So I started watching WCW, and I had like a commonality with my cousin who watched WWF. So I started getting more into like WWF, and yeah, I got really into the Monday Night Wars, you know, right when the whole NWO stuff blew up.
Have you ever gotten into like some of the history of like Crockett in the 80s, or have you always sort of just like dismissed all that? Or
little bits here and there,
Okay.
but like the deeper south, like the territory days, sort of. I mean, I've watched the documentaries, but yeah, I've been even consuming it or just having it, even though like I don't watch too much AEW, but like I always am trying to like keep abreast of what's like who's NWA champion right now, Tyrus, and like all the I try to keep abreast of it. But,
Gotcha. Well, since you brought it up, quick shout out. Has anyone seen the Tales from the Territories series, the new sort of Vice series that they're doing?
I've seen some of them, not all of them. I definitely saw WCCW, Mid-South, and one other one I can't remember.
They've got one about Florida. They got one about Memphis. They've got one about Hawaii. Oh, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
They have a roundtable. They're terrific. The WCCW one literally brought tears to my eyes. I don't think wrestling fans today truly appreciate how over the Von Erich family was in Texas in the 80s. Like, I think they would like lower the Texas state flags to half mast every time a Von Erich brother passed away. Highly recommend it. Go to YouTube and watch it. And also, David, you mentioned NWA. NWA announced they're returning to YouTube. They had been having a monthly subscription for their NWA Power TV show and on Fight TV. Fight TV is still going to run their pay-per-views, but the live shows actually re-debuted tonight. Not their live shows, but their weekly tape show has started back up again on YouTube. At the end of this month, they're doing a live one. So NWA is going to be a lot more accessible to the casual wrestling fan, and I recommend everyone check that out because NWA, it's been a little engine that could for a bunch of years. They lost a lot of talent, I'm sure, when AEW was kicking off. People like Ricky Starks left NWA to go to AEW, but they have great talent. They got some names still there. Their world champion is a Funkadactyl. So, I mean, it's still interesting. Anyway, so that's all. Let's get to some breaking news that's been going on about WWE. Then we'll talk about some of the high points of Raw and the big stories that are going on sort of as we're making this sort of turn toward Royal Rumble and WrestleMania season. So here's two pieces of breaking news that happened over the weekend and through Monday. One, I'm sure everyone knows, you guys know, AJ Styles broke his ankle at a house show, I guess Saturday or Sunday, one of the nights. There was video of it on Twitter. He finished his match, it looks like, or then he made the tag, rolled out of the ring, did not come back in. As the match ended, referee threw the X, and he was tagging with Gallows, I guess, against the Judgment Day. Couldn't even tell you where they were. But there was video of him with the referee throwing the X, and he confirmed, I guess, the next day that he has broken his ankle. Good news is he won't need surgery, but that does take him out of the Royal Rumble. Tom, what does a loss of AJ Styles right now do for that OC Judgment Day angle?
I think the OC was already treading water at best, sliding down the card. I think without AJ Styles to be kind of the force that elevates them and keeps them relevant. Not sure what happens now. I think with Carl Anderson still, sort of having Japan possibly commitments in play, that also sort of raises questions. Silver lining, maybe this gives an opportunity for Carl Anderson to have a singles run in WWE because there won't be sort of a faction versus faction thing in play, and maybe he can have some more. I think he had a singles match on TV recently. I get a little jumbled up because I was sort of watching things on the delay, probably like a lot of us during the holidays, and just catching it when I could. But I think he did have it before Styles got hurt. I think he did have a singles match on TV.
Yep.
So, I think that they're kind of in limbo. They obviously have something they still want to do with the Judgment Day and with Dominic that we'll maybe talk about later. So I think the OC is in limbo for now.
Okay. And the question I'm going to pose to Cheats and to Dave is, it appeared last night that there may have been another injury that occurred. Seth Rollins kind of came up limp at the end of the main event last night. Most of the reports that were on Twitter today was video from fans that after the show had gone off the air, the X signal was put up. Corey Graves helped Seth to the back. Probably a lot more impactful if Seth's going to be out for a while than AJ right now. Mark, your take on a potential having Seth Rollins out of the picture for a while, leading up into a very crucial season.
Well, no, I'll start with AJ because I actually think it's a blessing in disguise. I think they were kind of like Tom said with the kind of OC and AJ and the Judgment Day, they were kind of falling down the card. Still don't exactly know if the WWE knows exactly what to do with Gallows and Anderson. now that AJ's gone, who knows what they're gonna do with Gallows and Anderson? Are they gonna fall into like the giant tag team shuffle, or do they kind of give them a reason to have come back to WWE? I've always assumed that if you're Gallows and Anderson and you know, turn away from Japan, turn away from Impact, turn away from AEW per se to re-sign with WWE, that you had some type of idea that they was going to have a plan for you. Um, I think they had, a debut night that was pretty good, and then it just kind of has been pretty pedestrian, honestly. So I think, and AJ is AJ. He's obviously one of the best workers in the company. Tremendous athlete, even at the age that he's at. He's still super phenomenal. Is a cliche word, but I do think he was getting lost a bit, and I didn't necessarily love the Judgment Day feud. So maybe this gives AJ a chance to reset, and it gives some idea of what to do with the OC. With that said, I will quickly say Seth Rollins is one of the hottest people in the company. He's one of the most over people in the company at this point as well. So anytime you lose Seth, if you're going to use him for any extended period of time going into this season, it's going to be bad and it's going to be noticeable for the company. But he's Seth. Seth will come back and be fine. But hopefully he's not out too long. But that's where I am. I actually think that this could be a good thing for AJ Styles and the OC.
Okay, David, thoughts? Any thoughts on AJ and your thoughts on Seth and the impact that's going to have?
Oh yeah, I agree, Chiefs. Like they must have had some plan for the Good Brothers besides being like AJ's boys. So like maybe whatever, if they were ever planning on some sort of split down the road, maybe that expedites that. I feel mostly worse for Mia Yim. I don't like it'd be nice in theories if maybe they just continued and maybe it heightened her, even more, and they were like her guys. But I agree that I think it's a sort of a blessing in disguise. I just don't see a lot of with the Usos just running the gauntlet on the tag team titles. Like it feels like that there are a lot of tag teams because you can tell that Triple H loves tag team wrestling. That they might get lost in the shuffle. I always like them better as heels anyway, like those guys. I would like to see Carl get a singles run. Like it'd just be nice to see them either of them split. Maybe he goes back to the Festus character.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe it's like a modern day Jesse and Festus.
That'd be a heck of a leap. I think I agree with the thoughts about AJ, like having him maybe out for a little bit, missing Royal Rumble. That's going to hurt, but it's not going to hurt nearly as much as Seth. I'm far more concerned about the Seth Rollins injury.
Yeah.
There is some speculation. There was at least yesterday online. Is this a work? Is this a shoot? I don't think they usually do a work angle when they throw up the X. That's sort of like reserved for legit injuries, but who knows? It's wrestling. They can do whatever they want.
I'm pretty sure that's like the one of the taboo things is like throwing up the X inappropriately.
Right, because there have been significant situations where the X has been needed because people have been in serious trouble. But I think as much as I'd like to see AJ always in or around the title picture for y'all's reasons, it hurts. But anytime one of your top stars goes out, you don't know how long it's going to be. I'm sure it causes chaos in the office. There probably are always some B or C or D scenarios, but the reason you have those guys in front of the camera as much as because they can deliver, and Seth's been delivering for months. So I definitely hope this injury does not keep him out too long. Speaking of injuries, I kind of thought we'd see a Cody Rhodes return last night. I was sort of semi-expecting it. I was thinking maybe that it had been advertised as another one of these must-watch Raws. They did do a vignette for Cody. Maybe we were going to see Edge last night. I didn't catch it start to finish. We didn't see Edge last night at all, did we? No. And there was a Cody vignette, right? So they're bringing Cody sort of back into the fold a little bit. There's been a ton of rumors, and that's exactly what they are, just rumors about what the WrestleMania main events are going to look like. We've talked about it sort of ad nauseum with these various scenarios. But it looks like Cody's going to return. Is he a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble? Does he sort of make his presence felt toward the end of a Roman Reigns match? What ideally, Cheats, would you like to see with Cody when he returns? What's the best scenario? Because he is about to be brought back from injury, and there are a lot of directions they can go in with him. Do you have him win the Rumble and take on Roman? I guess, again, we should preface this by saying the same thing we've said in the last few weeks. All this depends on what is going on with The Rock.
Sure.
It appears.
You know what? I actually, the one thing that AEW does right is these surprise entrances. So if I'm looking at it under that lens, you let the whole Royal Rumble go, right? They declare a Royal Rumble winner. Then the lights go out. And Cody comes out and it like beats up whoever wins the Royal Rumble, right? Or something of that nature. I don't know if I want to see his return in the actual Rumble. I would love to see his return on Rumble night somehow impacting the night's events.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily want to be like, oh, it's number 30 and he has to run to the ring and try to like beat up 5 guys or something like that. I don't necessarily need to see that. But I do need to see like some type of return at the pay-per-view that says like, or maybe the Monday after the pay-per-view that says I'm ready to be back and take on all challengers. That's where I am on it.
David, if you lock down The Rock,
yep,
who would you want to see Cody face? Would you I guess Seth is on the air again. I personally do not need to see another Seth Cody match. They had 3 amazing matches, but
he's just so hot right now as a face. Like, I think that would honestly overshadow Cody in a way. Like, he needs to be against someone who's a little hotter as a heel to come back. I don't think they're going to surprise because they're building to it. Like, I think that if anything, like, it'd be more in line for him to be like, I'm declaring my entry into the Royal Rumble, and they're just sort of like building to that. So he'll just like let it be known, because I think like he had that huge surprise return. I'm like, you can't top that pop. That
the Mania return,
the WrestleMania return last year for
sure.
The
WrestleMania return, you can't. There's no way a Royal Rumble return is going to like top that. So I think they're being more intentional with his introduction.
How far out is Randy Orton? Because in my mind,
unknown.
Because in my mind, there could be some type of like, how they did with like the best wrestling match ever type, like not really a full storyline, but they put like a really good match on a card. Right. They could just put like a Cody versus Randy type thing.
There's a story to tell with Cody and Randy.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that'd be great.
That could be a waste though too. Like you could just like make that a storyline down the road somewhere.
You could absolutely. If Brock is Roman's opponent at WrestleMania, there has been I'm sorry, Brock. I say Brock. Sorry. If Rock is the Roman's opponent,
geez, not this again.
Oh no, Brock and Lashley are going at it at WrestleMania. I sure hope that's the case. Would you be okay, Tom, with Cody versus John Cena, which has been floated around a little bit?
I think it's kind of. I think it would be a weird matchup just from the standpoint of Cena. Obviously, is now a nostalgia face, 100%. I mean, he was always a face, but at this point, he's pure. Even the crowd response is positive, and they've presented Cody so far as a pure face. It would be weird for that to be the matchup, other than like a sort of a mutual respect type handshake. We respect each other. Let's have a good match type thing. I mean, I guess that's okay. I don't see that being something that would really drive much attention to WrestleMania, other than for people who are sort of lapsed John Cena fans who are like, oh, Cena's got a match on the card. Let's check this out. The more interesting thing for me, as far as Cody goes, is the fact that, granted, because of the change in creative leadership, it's a little bit difficult to read the proverbial tea leaves. But to my mind, the fact that they are being so explicit about Cody's return makes it, I think, more likely, I'm not saying it's probable, but more likely that The Rock may be involved in the Royal Rumble. Because typically, if you have a big return at the Royal Rumble, you kind of play close to the vest and don't really announce it and don't kind of lay the breadcrumbs for the audience going into the match. So the fact that you have a guy like Cody Rhodes, who obviously high profile injury, he's been out forever. There's a lot of talk about, last year, match of the year in WWE because of obviously he had that pec injury, et cetera, et cetera. And so typically a guy coming back from a big injury, you would have him, as Edge did, as Cena did, you would have them just show up as one of the later entries in the Royal Rumble. And the fact that they're talking about all this makes me think, like, is it a misdirect to get people thinking about, Cody's coming back, Cody, that's a big return. You bring him back at like 3 or 11 or whatever. And then all of a sudden at 28, 29, or probably 30, then you get Dwayne and it's like, oh, okay.
That would also work with Randy Orton too, if you wanted to bring him back.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't talk about Randy at all. And I think, Elliot, you might have heard what I've heard, which is like there's been talk that he might not be able to come back. I mean, I think he had, it's spinal in nature. And so if he's not able to come back like ever, much less in the next 3 months, different story. But that'll be what I'm looking for. I think one of the criticisms of, gosh, I think it was the most recent Rumble, but it might have been 2 years ago. It all gets jumbled up. Was the fact that there weren't really many surprises, and I think that they probably are responsive to that. And I think that we will see something. Whether it's The Rock is a different question, but we'll see something this time around that's going to definitely get people talking. That has been something Triple H has done on every pay-per-view that he has run since he's been in charge of creative of the main roster, is have something that, a visual or a return or something that gets people talking.
We've got a comment from a wrestling chat with friend's friend who said, what about Big E?
Could be Big E.
Could be Big E. Last I heard from Big E was that they were going to give it a full year before they even evaluate him. That would put it about March. Hey, I'd love it. I hope Big E comes back. I want Big E to come back if he's healthy. It just seems a little premature. I think they're not counting on him yet to even be ready to go in January, let alone in wrestling shape. But I would love it. That'd be great, but probably too soon for Big E. It's not a big enough moment for a return. Like, who are some guys who have been out for, Matt Riddle at some point is going to possibly return. He's
Rick
not injured.
Obviously, Rick
Boogs. That was the next name I was going to say is Boogs has been out for a while. Could be time for him.
Boogs.
Could be somebody.
Bring me a William Regal appearance. Like
he probably will appear.
Yeah.
He probably will appear. He'll be under contract.
And then go to his creative role backstage. But give me that. Have him come out to he's a man. Like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I'm someone who wanted to see Regal stay in AEW, but if it makes him happy, he's happy. So, all right. Well, we've covered injuries. We've covered Cody. We've covered AJ. We've covered Seth. We all hope they're okay. Before we get into a topic that I know Thomas will talk about, let's talk about one more. Let's talk about one more aspect of the women's division right now. Alexa Bliss had her title shot last night against Bianca Belair. They have been teasing Alexa Bliss being kind of terrorized by this Bray entity for a while. It really showed up in the match last night, actually causing her to clutch her head. She seemingly was physically affected by the graphic on the Titantron. And then she just went off the rails and attacked a referee and attacked David, we haven't gotten your opinion on this. What's the end game for Alexa in this scenario where she's being tormented by visions and memories of Bray? This fan or plant who stood up at ringside last night or and had the Uncle Howdy mask or some version of the mask, did y'all notice that the security guard wasn't in on it and tried to sit that guy down? He had to almost, I bet he half whispered, like, I'm part of this show or something like that. Cause the security guard promptly sat back down. Something like that. David, what's your opinion on how just the whole break here? We've gotten Tom's takes ad infinitum, mine, cheats. Your take on the Bray and Alexa storyline.
When the I really liked friendly TV show Bray Wyatt. The Fiend was like he put himself in the corner, just like the Fiend had no mouthpiece. He was a talker and he was on a screen, so I felt like it was going towards Alexa being a sort of, I remember like when Kane would have a love interest, some sort of dynamic there, and then it got unceremoniously like pulled the plug on that, and then. Yeah, I was a little disappointed that she was going back to it because I didn't really like it, but I'm hoping that they do it better this time. Like pre Triple H running it, you would feel like the wrestlers would be given a gimmick, a character, and they'd be like, make it work. But now it feels like the wrestlers are being given the ability to be like, hey, here's this idea for a character, kind of like expand on it, make it your own. All the characters feel a little more authentic, less two-dimensional. Like he's starting to ground a lot of the comedy into not being just shtick. It's actually like, the 24/7 title got ditched, so like things are getting more real. So I'm hoping that her character, it's a better version of what could have been, like getting it back on track. I'm getting a little impatient with this. I've loved the slow build storytelling, especially Bloodline, but I'm getting a little impatient with the Bray Wyatt thing. I think maybe because I like LA Knight so much that it's taking away from LA Knight, because
it's an odd first program for Bray. But they're both being featured pretty regularly, and they're both making the most of it. LA Knight, especially, these guys can definitely do that. So I also was a little disappointed about Alexa because they had developed some pretty crazy personalities among some of the other female performers. Number one, Liv Morgan. Number two, Nikki Cross. I would have loved to see one of them start being steered toward this Bray faction, have Alexa be the one sort of like warning them of the pitfalls and the trials, and actually be one that tried to prevent maybe some of these other performers. Now, whether that eventually had her, maybe a couple of female wrestlers joining this Wyatt faction, who knows? But I thought, it seemed to me they were setting Nikki Cross up for something really devious and wild. Maybe they just don't think she has enough gravitas to pull it off. I don't know. You guys thinking if the Wyatt Six is going to have a female member, is Alexa the one who should do it, or would you like to see somebody else join? Cheats or Tom?
Good, Tom.
I mean, I think that clearly they've laid the groundwork for at least giving what happened 2 years ago some closure. And I think that it's also the fact that Uncle Howdy has manifested as clearly a separate person. I think now we kind of see like, okay, this is going to be a group of people in some way, shape, or form. It is probably going to be a faction of some kind, whether it's 6 people, the Wyatt Six, or that was just a misdirect or whatever. And I think, the big thing for me is, and this has been a running theme, they're starting, I think, slowly but surely to figure out kind of better face-heel alignment, especially for their women wrestlers, which is something to me, and we'll talk about Charlotte in a minute, but was something for me has been like one of the most just mind-numbing unforced errors of the last year, has been just having people on the wrong side of the column. And I think now that Alexa is getting back on the heel side, that's a positive development, both for the division and for her. I agree. Speaking of the frustration with the pace of this, we've joked on the show like a month ago, because I haven't been on the show for several weeks, more than a month ago, probably. I asked the question, like, is Bray Wyatt going to have a match in calendar 2022? And all of us were like, no, it's not going to happen. And sure enough, January 28th is the first time he's going to step foot in the ring. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I will say the out of ring stuff, I think would be more beneficial if it develops slightly faster, because as I've said a million times, there's a fine line between mysterious and confusing or frustrating. And I think that this whole thing there have been some very, very cool aspects of it. And then there have been some weeks where it's like, God, just move the ball down the field a little bit, guys. Like, what's happening here? I don't understand this. You're not explaining it, and you don't have to beat me over the head with it, but just have some kind of development here. So now we're starting to get it. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
A little bit. I mean, what's happening is basically Uncle Howdy is appearing at the entrance, and now he's moved into the ring, and he attacked Bray. Well, is he going to reveal himself anymore? I think pay-per-view at best. Maybe next Tuesday, as we get closer to the Royal Rumble, we'll start giving our predictions as to who's behind the mask, who will we see, what will happen. But let's table that because there's a couple other big topics to still get to tonight. Okay, we're gonna hear it. Big return last night. There, like a Becky Lynch type return, because Charlotte shows up, promptly challenges, and promptly beats the former champion Ronda Rousey, and walks out of there with the title, much like Becky did. Was it SummerSlam against Bianca last year? So Charlotte's back. Charlotte's the champ, and Charlotte's a face. Tom, go. Why is that a bad
why are we starting with Tom? Tom, go ahead.
Okay. I think Charlotte coming back is positive. I think Ronda not being the champion anymore, also positive. I think the way that they did it, like, my frustration about Charlotte is a heel. She's a great heel. She should be a heel. And even the way that they presented her in that, if you look at it on paper, it does not make sense to present a face this way. Shows up, challenges a champion who just had a tough title defense, and that's a face. That's what I get frustrated with. Now, it's also possible that they said, and so here's the devil's advocate benefit of the doubt that I will give them. It is possible that they said, look, when Charlotte shows up, she's going to get a face pop because she's a returning recognizable star. Okay, so let's use that, have her take the title off Ronda, and then as we move forward, she will be presented as a heel, which is the way she should be presented. And in retrospect, her actions will be like, oh, of course she was a heel, because look how she took advantage of a fatigued champion. So if that's the way they go, fine. It's fine. The interesting thing to me is assuming she remains confined to SmackDown and doesn't float between both shows, which she typically has in her history, who do we think is her face challenger down the road at WrestleMania at this point for that title? Because I think to me it's relatively clear that on Raw, it's going to be Bianca, and I think Rhea. I think Rhea is going to get a big singles push, which I think that's a great. I love all that. So I don't know if there's another face. I mean, is it Raquel? Or does she stay a face and they give her a heel, which to me would be.
I mean,
bizarre.
Isn't Asuka's? They're teasing a turn towards dark.
Yeah.
So.
Asuka seems like the most formidable challenger that's there.
But who wants to cheer Charlotte over Asuka?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Right. Well, I think, Tom, you sort of hit it, and this is what I was going to talk about. Like, I think if she's been gone this long, she's going to have a face pop. If she's going after Ronda, who seems is universally hated by most people, despite multiple attempts to try to get her as a face. I mean, she's a face for 2 minutes sometimes after a long layoff, but she's a heel because she doesn't know how to be a face, and she doesn't really know how to do anything that's be a sneering,
No one likes her.
No one likes her.
No one likes her.
Contempt for the business is not a pathway to being
right.
Not at all. Not at all. So I can understand why they had Shaw come out the way they did. Also, and I'm not necessarily for this, but it appears as though Triple H is going to have Rick in some sort of appearance, probably not long term, but it wouldn't surprise me if he makes an appearance maybe at the Royal Rumble. There's been some Ric Flair. There's been some rumors. There's been some rumors that Ric Flair is gonna come back in maybe a very limited capacity for maybe even just a one-shot deal. So the fact, because they're also promoting his documentary, he's got a documentary coming out.
It's on Peacock.
It's out too. So
yeah,
for those reasons, that's why it wasn't surprising for me that Charlotte, is going to come out as a heel to appeal to fans, to appeal to Ric Flair fans. But Tom, like you said, I'm hoping she immediately does something heelish. It'd be the best decision is to do something that gets her right back on her bad side.
Yeah, let's not overthink this, guys.
Yeah, and I think a sharp turn is natural for her.
It's
But also,
inevitable.
Lacey Evans, they've got history.
They do that.
That obviously is why Rick is coming back to pay off that impregnating Lacey Evans storyline that we've all been waiting for months to like. What happened?
Yeah,
it's who made Vince McMahon?
If any of that happens, that will severely chip away at my confidence in Triple H. It'll make me think that Vince may be still pulling some strings.
They are trying to rebrand and recreate, Lacey Evans the Marine, and they're giving her vignettes and all that stuff. But no, guys, let's not overthink this. Anytime Charlotte's gonna show up, I popped, but it wasn't like, oh yes, my favorite face is back. Let's take care of business. It was like, oh shit, Charlotte Flair's back, right? How cool! That's cool. And then I want her to be Charlotte Flair. I want her to be the obnoxious, everybody in the crowd is beneath me, really good wrestler, right? That she is. Maybe less drama backstage. Maybe do that. Cut us some slack there. But I was excited that she's back. I was very surprised and kind of thought they did Ronda a bit dirty by taking the belt off her for Charlotte in 2 seconds. But they want Charlotte to get to 17. This makes her 14. That's also everybody knows the story of that. But I think whoever Charlotte faces in the big pay-per-views down the road, they're going to kind of be the underdog. So there is a chance for the little engine that could, like a Liv Morgan, to come back. I could easily see a pretty good storyline with Liv trying to get back her belt back to the top, and Charlotte just being like, "You're little, you're small, you're nothing. This isn't what it used to be. You're not wrestling Becky Lynch here." And I think things like that are pretty funny.
I really like the notion of Charlotte and Rhea, although I agree. I think Rhea's probably
it's going to be on the other side,
angling toward Bianca, probably WrestleMania. But Raquel Rodriguez, they're investing a lot in her. Whether it's the right call or not, we'll see. She can go. She's a strong, muscular, beautiful woman, just kind of like Charlotte, who can go. So I think Raquel and Charlotte seem. So Mark, what's your criticism of Raquel?
Mark, are you okay? Are you having a medical?
No, it's because I had to live through the Raquel Rhea matches in NXT, and I'm just like, it's so you got Rhea, you've got Bianca, you've got Raquel. It's just Charlotte's gonna be different. I don't know. I am not. It's not that I'm not sold on Raquel. It's that I'm not sold on Raquel being better than Rhea. So there's a miniature version of Rhea Ripley that's not as good. She's not miniature. She might be bigger than Rhea, but she's not as good. She's probably not as good as Bianca. And it's so there's only but so many kind of powerhouse women in that mold that you can have. And that's one of the reasons why I really do like Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair can go. And she can go in a way that's completely different than the others and can make really good matches.
Yeah, I mean, look, just to be clear, I think Charlotte Flair is the best all-around talent.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. I would say, Charlotte. I would probably go Asuka.
Yeah, she's great.
Because they can really go. And I think Bayley, when Bayley's in, this current version of Bayley still, to me, I will say, is not. I don't think she's in game shape. I don't know what to say outside of that. She just doesn't look conditioning wise like she's back to where she was before the injury. That's all I can say about it.
I just feel like, I mean, I've broken record as usual, but I feel like the panacea for whatever ails the women's division is to do the obvious and turn Bayley face. She is, I have said this before, I have never seen, I'm talking at live events, have never seen anyone other than maybe John Cena, who was as over with kids as she was when she was a babyface, and why you would just be like, you know what, we're okay. Let's not have somebody like that. It just blows my mind. And it's not like Damage Control is doing. I mean, they're not going anywhere. They're treading water.
It'll happen. I'm curious what the spark will be, whether it's Io and Dakota turning on Bailey. If someone, I mean, that makes the most sense. But I agree. Bailey's a face like Charlotte's a heel, if you ask me.
Exactly right, and that has been my frustration. So let me throw out a question here, because we're kind of talking about certain things that tie into a little bit of this. Since he has become head of creative, Triple H has done a really good job of bringing people back into the fold that I think fans were either sorry to see go or felt like they weren't utilized properly. The caveat to that, though, and this is the question, is that once these people re-debut, in many cases, they seem to be, I don't want to say directionless, but they sort of quickly fall down the card or become an afterthought or whatever. Is it too soon to say that is a flaw in his game? No pun intended. Or do we have concerns about the fact that, like, there's a big deal about people like Karrion Kross comes back, or, Damage Control, etc. Candice LeRae, who is, I'm not her biggest fan, but again, comes back, whatever. Dexter Lumis, whatever, and then they kind of just go away.
David, what do you got for that?
I think he like, those are people that had faith in their talent, right? So he's bringing them back. He wants to give them their due, and I mean, not everybody's going to get pushed. Like, Gargano will get pushed, but like, not everybody's going to be there right now. But I mean, I imagine bringing back stars, you're not just on TV, like, you're doing other stuff as a WWE superstar. So like, they're an investment. So like, I think that he's giving them a shot, bringing them back. If it doesn't work out, they'll get let go and be big somewhere else. But I think it's for him also, like, he brought back all the NXT, like, anybody he could that got fired while he was having a medical emergency. So he's given the people they thought were a shot, and if the cream rises to the top, and if it doesn't,
that's what we've heard he's doing in NXT now. Like, these guys are getting about 3 months, and if they're not seeing any improvement, they're being shown the door. And I guess that's how Triple H wants to run his shop. Mark,
no, if you Elliot, if you allow me a point of kind of personal privilege here to do this, and it involves everyone. But let's just quickly run it down, because TG brings up a great point, and I just want to, like, just a quick hit or miss, right? So far under the Triple H return era, like, hit row, I think we would all agree, right? Miss so far.
Yep, unnecessary. Unnecessary.
Miss
Candice LeRae.
Yeah, nothing
To be determined. We don't have
TBD.
Need more data.
Yep.
Dexter Lumis.
Miss. He was a huge hit at first, and then
it wasn't the feud. It got so like, complex, like, the whole buying. It was so stupid. Like,
convoluted.
It was weird.
It was a natural progression, and they just, like, flipped him. Like,
the high point of Lumis was when he found himself inside Miz's house.
Yeah, but I'm going to say miss, because it's a missed opportunity. They didn't.
Correct.
Agreed.
Braun Strowman. Where are we on him?
He's doing what all he can do. He was never this monster.
He's going after IC, right?
I will be disappointed if he's the guy to beat Gunther. That would be a mistake.
Absolutely.
We just talked about Gargano. What, do we need more information on Gargano yet, or what? What are we doing here?
You can call him a hit, because if you're going to compare him to some of the other people they've had on there, but
I say TBD.
I was going to say he's being utilized, but is he over?
No, not really.
No. So, Damage Control, Dakota, and Io.
I would
say their success. Yeah,
they've got to be success. They're holding the belts. You got to.
I mean, again, I think here's the concern, though. The pattern is they come back. Oh, it's huge impact, big deal. They get pushed right away. Weird thing where they didn't win the tournament, but then won the titles.
Yeah.
So it's like success, I guess.
I would say yes. I would put them over right now. But here's where we go. we already talked about Gallows and Anderson. I think they're middling. I don't necessarily love them.
Agreed.
Karrion Kross, what the hell? What are we doing here?
Don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, we were talking about him when he first came back. The re-debut was awesome.
Yeah.
And when he first came back, we were like, he could be one of those guys in that category of a candidate to take a title off of Reigns. And now it's like, he's barely on TV. He's feuding with Rey Mysterio. Okay, fine.
Elliot, what do you say about Karrion Kross?
I am a big Karrion Kross fan, especially since ProWrestlingCrate.com sent me his autograph last week. I am holding out hope that Triple H has something for him. I don't know where it's going to be. Like we thought he was going to be, because of his association with the White Rabbit, he could be teased with the Bray faction.
Let's be clear. You thought that. You were super invested in that.
Absolutely.
You were so invested.
I'm holding out hope that there is something down the road for Bray. I mean, a Bray Wyatt Karrion Kross feud would be terrific if you let the two of them, if you let Bray sort of call it. But
and that's the last one, because and that is definitely a big to be determined with Bray. So those are, we just ran down the list of the kind of Triple H returns, like comebacks, who came back to the company since Triple H has taken over. I'm leaning way with Tom here, where it's like, okay, almost like we talked about, and we talk about it with Tony Khan all the time. Let's acquire these assets. Let's roll them out there. And then we just don't know what to do to make this thing shake. Because for every hit row you still have the Street Profits that were already there, or the Viking Raiders that were already there. And so now you've just got so much. Do you think any of those
signings since Triple H took over was like literally to avoid more ex-WWE talent getting scooped up by AEW? Is it almost just like to
Gargano is the only one that people actually thought he would show up on the other network, because Gargano was the only one that people were like, is Adam Cole or those guys going to bring in Johnny Wrestling? And so I do think they signed him to be like, they wanted him because he loved him in NXT, but I think he might have been the one that they were like, and obviously Wyndham Rotunda, like Bray Wyatt probably had offers from everyone.
I imagine if you're like Triple H, you want to, like, you're thinking about more as like a talent pool, right? Like we all know that not everybody can be pushed simultaneously. And so like he wants the strongest, most talented pool. And like I'm sure people in the business know that, like, okay, I'm not, leading it this time, but like if I was Gargano and Candice, like there's something coming up for them. But also, he didn't want them to go to AEW, I imagine. And like, but so I'm more optimistic that feuds are coming down the road for a lot of the folks.
Yeah, I mean, we are entering like WrestleMania season, where a lot of things are going to start getting built. Royal Rumble always seems to allow people to to have a feature few moments in a match, and that carries them on in the months that come. But we are sort of getting into the start of a new season, so these could have been just chess pieces that Triple H had to make toward Q3, Q4 of this year in order to have a 2023 that he's sort of maybe envisioning.
Yeah, and I would also say, and somebody made this point on this show a while back, and I can't remember who it was, but I also think that the injury to Ciampa, that negatively affected both Gargano, because it put him in sort of a holding pattern, and because I'm sure they had plans related to them, and then also I think it negatively affected indirectly Loomis, because all of a sudden Gargano becomes this gets shoehorned into the Miz thing, and it becomes completely convoluted. So yeah, I do think that that's part of it.
And are they like bringing back Jonah to be like, I feel like aligned with Miz, but he wasn't even in the show last night.
Well, I think he's in Japan right now.
Okay.
I think he has like one last commitment I thought I saw, and which he's doing. Maybe is it Wrestle Kingdom? I don't know if that's where he is.
I don't know, but they did make a point of having a video package for him. So I think that's probably. I think you're probably right. I think it's like they couldn't use him last night, but they wanted to. You're talking about Jeff Cobb, just to be clear here, right?
No, Jonah Bronson.
I mean, Bronson, yeah.
That's who I meant. Sorry. But yeah, they did
have
make a point
package.
of having a package lesson.
Okay, so I want to talk about one more topic that kind of stemmed from last night, but just to put a pin on the Charlotte situation. Does Ronda and Shayna go for the tag titles? Does Ronda and Shayna start just running roughshod? So you see them, but are they going to be faces? Are they going to be? Is there going to be heel versus heel feud for the SmackDown belts?
It'll either be heel versus heel, and maybe that leads to the breakup of Damage Control, or somebody turns, or something happens, or there will be some kind of transitional face team that holds the titles briefly.
David, do you want to see a Raw women's tag team title belt, or do you want to see another belt for the women so you can spread the wealth, or are you fine with how it is right now?
Ooh.
And Mark, I'm going to ask you the same question.
What's the tag? Like, what's the rundown of the tag? I'm trying to.
There's a SmackDown, the SmackDown champ. Oh, who's a rundown of tag teams?
Yeah, like who are?
It's all been thrown together.
So they'd have to get. I think they would need to do some more establishing of tag teams.
Agreed.
Now, do you think the women need another singles title to kind of increase the storylines, increase the available talent that will go for a major title, or do you think it's just status quo and just sort of let the five main women just keep battling it out with various people?
I think a mid-card women's title, upper mid-card would be great.
I'm a favor of more titles than they currently have, but not overdoing it like AEW almost is overdoing it.
Yeah.
So what title would you want to see?
I'd want to see some women's, like a women's US title, a women's, whatever, call it what you want. Not a, you can't do 24/7. You're not going to bring back the hardcore. You bring back the European Championship, something that is women centric. I think a television or US title would make some sense. Like Triple H doesn't care what Tony Khan does, but he wants to bring like the USA title. That'd be kind of cool to battle with the TNT title.
Wow.
But I wish there was one more title that the women could go for. So your Candice LeRae's, your everybody who's not paired, your Piper Nevins can come back and get some face time. Seeing Nikki Cross, who I really like, back more regularly. Mark
Piper Nevins?
Dewdrop, man. She's gonna get her original name back.
I'm joking. Is she gonna get her name? She's not getting her name.
I sure hope so.
No. Okay, go ahead.
But it made me think the other day, how great would a Becky Lynch Dewdrop tag team be? Get those Irish lasses together. I saw that as a potential opponent for Shayna and Ronda down the road. Is because Becky's, if you're gonna have Rhea and Bianca and Charlotte and Becky's gonna have to find her way somewhere. I don't know exactly where Becky goes next, but let's move on to our final topic. We'll save the women for next week. I gave him no chance to do anything meaningful, and I even had less of a chance when he joined the faction he's currently with. However, Dom Mysterio gave an interview from prison where he showed off his new teardrop tattoo. I can only imagine the things he has seen and had to go through while he's doing this, as he said it last night, hard time. Dom is, Rhea is the brute of the Judgment Day, but Dom is really making the most of his opportunity. I think this has reignited my interest, not just in the Judgment Day, but in Dom. I almost now don't even want Dom to have a feud with his dad again. I think Dom's moved on to bigger and better things. They're going to have a huge blow for WrestleMania, but Dom is becoming a character that, again, his wrestling ability is improving. It's not a rocket ship, but he almost had no TV presence, personality whatsoever, and it's drastically improved. Mark, what is your current opinion on Dom Mysterio and his?
I like it. I think it's good creative. I think it's a good story. I am like you. Did not see Dominic Mysterio being someone that I would ever care about outside of, some of the really cheesy kind of, father son stuff they did at the beginning of his career. But him turning on him ever since he turned on his dad and joined the Judgment Day, it's been pretty entertaining. It's been pretty funny. I enjoy it. I love where they're going with this. I'm all for it. There's nothing more I can say. I think he's doing a really good job, and he's actually, making an impact. He's making an impact the way that he needs to make an impact. He doesn't have to necessarily wrestle, 10, 15-minute matches, but if he's like, interferes enough where it's like, oh, Dom's a part of this thing, it's pretty cool.
Dave, is Dominic Rhea's sidekick or is Rhea Dominic's sidekick?
Oh, that's it. Right now, Rhea is Dominic's sidekick and is so helping him get over. Man, my favorite storylines are ones where you can tell that they kind of threw it out there, see how the audience react, and then it's just everybody sort of ping-ponging each other. Like creative is hearing how the audience is reacting, telling the merch that they're selling. It's like, okay, they're digging this about Dominic. Let's listen to them and really lean into that, make him this little whiny little cuck boy. It's so great. I'm happy that, man, he's becoming such a little turd. It's great.
It is good.
Tom, Dom and Rhea are getting the spotlight currently with the Judgment Day. If you seen rumors that at some point Edge may come back to face Finn again, maybe even as Demon Balor. What is the bode for Damian Priest? What is he gonna? What's his part in this? And if you want to comment on Dom, also please do.
Well, I think the thing with Dom, along the lines of what you guys were just talking about, to me, I think about if this storyline were playing out in the Thunderdome era or the Performance Center era, in other words, where you don't have a live crowd, I think it's DOA. Because to me, like the performance-wise or like how it looks on paper, it's just like, wow, there's not really much here. But heat is heat, and over is over, and he has been at times at certain shows the most over heel they have on the entire show. And that's something that a wave you just have to ride. And I think we're seeing that on the other side of the ledger, even to a greater extent with Sami Zayn, a guy who we
somehow very Sami. It's very Sami.
Yeah. So I think, you keep pushing in this obnoxious direction. And I think you found something here that's going to be very successful. And then in terms of Damian Priest, I mean, I think he has been, through no fault of his own, I think a little underutilized just because of the creative direction they wanted to go with the Judgment Day and the ascent of Dom, who clearly was supposed to be like the fourth banana in the Judgment Day. I think this year you're going to see a concerted reignition of a singles push for Damian Priest. I don't know if he's going to turn. I think that depends on whether or not they want to keep the Judgment Day together. But regardless, I think he'll get a mid-card singles push after Austin Theory is done with the U.S. title. I could see him going back after the U.S. title again and going from there. So,
no doubt about it. Well, we're getting close to an hour, and we had a show last week where we talked about 2022 to 2023. David, since this is your first spot this week, what are you most looking forward to in 2023 with WWE?
I've loved the Bloodline storyline. We'll love seeing it come to a close, to a natural, good conclusion. Seeing what's next for Roman Reigns, maybe he gets a break. I am excited to see what's after this Roman Reigns era comes to a close, and like, especially I feel like Triple H he's still inheriting kind of Vince McMahon's era. So like you mentioned, the new season coming up. Just kind of seeing how I do like these new hires, how they're going to play into his long-term vision.
All right, Tom, give me somebody that we're not thinking about who you want to see inducted into the Hall of Fame this year.
Oh gosh, wow, that's an abrupt.
Yeah, it's a big pivot. I was going to say, do we even think the Roman Reigns era ends this year in 23? I don't. Roman Reigns Roman Reigns continues for the whole.
It'll evolve into something. I'm curious to see what it evolves into.
I think the
It'll
only
evolve,
person
it'll evolve into a Hollywood movie career is what it's
yeah,
gonna
I mean,
evolve into.
the only person who's going to decide the Roman Reigns era is over is Roman Reigns, I think. I mean, barring an injury or, leukemia, health concerns coming back or something like that. It's really up to Roman, I think, to end it or not. I will put it this way. I don't think to Mark's point, I don't think the Roman Reigns, there's no scenario where Roman Reigns remains a part of the full-time roster and he's just not the guy. He falls down the card. That's not going to happen, I don't think. So, Elliot, to go back to your question, somebody who's not in the Hall of Fame, but should go into the Hall of Fame. First name that pops top of my head, and again, if he is in the Hall of Fame and I'm forgetting, please tell me. But Honky Tonk Man, I don't think, because they asked him and then he was like, "I can't do it," or they couldn't work out something.
Don't believe he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think they
that would take some. Well, with Vince gone, there's a whole slew of people who potentially could come back into the fold
because they finally put Savage in. Correct? He got in.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure.
Yes. Honky Tonk Man. I like it. Put some respect in that Intercontinental title. Cheats.
Yeah.
On the same lines as we get.
Oh, please don't ask me the Hall of Fame question. I have no clue.
Not going to Hall of Fame question. Give me a surprise Royal Rumble entrant that you'd like to see.
Ooh, surprise that I'd like to see. Maybe, I mean, by default, I go to the return of the Hurt Business. So can we just get them all in together?
Cheatham, did you notice they were kind of congregating backstage on Raw?
I would like to see the return of them as a faction
with Omos.
Hey, it's fine if Omos is there, MVP's there,
Muscle Man Malcolm sure wants that. I can tell you that.
Just because I love those guys. I'm trying to think of anything else that would.
I'd love to have. I would. It just popped in my head. I'd love to see Stokely Carmichael running the Hurt Business instead of MVP.
Well, MVP is pretty great too.
MVP is amazing.
He's
good. Amazing.
Stokely would be so good.
I would say, pound for pound, MVP's probably had a better run than Stokely right now.
Well, so far, yeah, maybe.
But the Hurt Business was gold. Hey, I will say this: the arguments that they were making at the beginning when MVP turned on Bobby and picked Omos, when he would get in the ring, his promos were really true. No one gave a crap about Bobby Lashley until MVP was he was the best mouthpiece Bobby ever had, and now Bobby's fine. But it was the Hurt Business, which MVP made. I'm a big MVP Hurt Business guy. I like the way they did.
Personally, since he's still with the business, I think I'd love to see Joe Hennig come back.
Who is this?
What was Joe Hennig's name?
Axel.
Curtis Axel. That's right. He's currently working as a producer. Every few years they get to they just empty out their back locker room and let Jimmy Noble run out and guys like that. I like to see he was sort of unceremoniously dumped, and especially if they're gonna somehow bring Bo Dallas back into the fold with Bray Wyatt, revisit that B team that he had, give Joe Hennig some TV time in the Royal Rumble this year. So we've gone about an hour 5. David,
yep.
What a great job tonight. You're welcome back. You're welcome back any and all Tuesdays. If you have more NWO shirts or other gear to wear in the following week, definitely do that. You said you're a big toy collector, or you were a big toy collector?
I had some toys as a kid, yeah.
Okay, as a kid, you're not currently an active collector like I am.
Oh, I wish I had the ability to do that.
I'm up to 83 AEW figures.
Oh my goodness.
I'm so ashamed about that. But Ringside Collectibles had some great sales over Christmas and New Year's.
You're so ashamed that you make sure the camera is positioned so we can see it.
Right. It looks like 2 of them are the exact same.
Nope, I don't have any 2 of the exact same. You talking about
right over your shoulder,
right
lower
there?
low, nope, other side.
Well, it's FTR. That's FTR.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
just they're both wearing the same outfit.
Right.
That's
Matching jackets.
Dax.
Dax, Cash.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. No, I don't have a single. The only I've any
So
doubles.
maybe FTR comes back and fights the Good Brothers. Maybe that's what they do. Who knows?
FTR Usos would be awesome, but I think
Ooh.
I think the timing would probably just might not be great for that. Because I just think, and unless Sammy is the guy and Owens is that and doesn't have a dance partner, then maybe FTR. All stuff we will get to in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Tom, as always. Thank you, Cheats. Thank you for everyone listening out there on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Please go to our pages. Please follow and like and tell a friend. On the Thursday show, we always count out 1, 2, 3. But on this show, we tap out. We say we got to tap. So ring that bell. We're out of here, folks. See you next Tuesday on Wrestling Chat with Friends, the Tuesday show. Thanks very much. Catch